Hi world. Today we're interviewing Elana Stanger, diversity artist extraordinaire. Hi Elana.
Hi, Eden.
I understand you call yourself a diversity artist. Can you tell us what does that mean?
So, yes, I coined the term for myself, diversity artist, because the art that I make is about healing all of us around issues of social oppression and cultural diversity.
How long have you been making art about diversity?
I started making art about cultural diversity um, when I opened Diversity Intercultural Art Gallery in New Orleans, Louisiana. When I was 25, I opened an art gallery, and it was called Diversity Intercultural Art Gallery. That was diversity with a C because it's a diverse city in which we live. No matter what city we're in, we can always understand ourselves as diverse people living in a myriad with myriad people of different myriad cultures, and so the sort of slogan for the gallery was Diverse City Intercultural Art Gallery because it's a diverse city in which we live. And I brought together artists of different cultures in the gallery. I asked artists of different cultures to make artwork that was about their culture, and some made art that was specifically about their culture, but it was also enough for people to just make art as people of different cultures, and that brought together everyone. When we had events like art openings, everyone would come together. We would learn about one another. We'd also learn about one another through the artwork, and it was a bridge building experience. And through my work doing bridge building by bringing other artists together, I eventually I started to be inspired, divinely inspired, to start developing my own work. I started to realize that I didn't only want to focus on featuring or focusing on other artists, but that we all have an artist within us, and that I too had an artist within me, and I too had something important to say about cultural diversity that I wanted to say. I needed to express my own experience with cultural diversity, growing up as a person living in the multicultural Bronx, where I grew up, which is a very multicultural environment, and then discovering that I, as I went to college, that I had to suddenly blend into the sea of the homogenous sea of white faces, the homogenous white culture, in order to survive. I didn't even do that at college. I didn't even really blend in, but I passed. So I'm just being honest here. But it would never sat well with me in my heart. And that's why I continued, why I made a vow to do something about that situation of oppression, the oppressiveness of the homogenous white culture that I found myself in, and how I continue to grow as an artist and a peacemaker and a dialogue facilitator. I started Students for an Interracial Dialogue on my campus, which was an organization on the campus to talk about race and racism on the campus and in the community. And it was from that experience, from taking a vow to do something about that situation of feeling the oppression of coming from the Bronx, feeling the oppression of the homogenous white culture on my campus, my college campus. It was then that I had made a vow to do something about the situation that catapulted me into starting Students for an Interracial Dialogue, where I facilitated a series of dialogues, the first of which was attended by 200 people, where I felt that I had found my calling as a facilitator of intercultural dialogue. And then I think because of the vow that I took, I found myself spiritually called to move from New York to New Orleans, Louisiana, which was the hub of the slave trade in the history of the United States of America, and where the population in 1993, when I originally moved to New Orleans, the population was 65% African American or black. So I feel that I was there to continue my learning, and that's where I opened Diversity Intercultural Art Gallery to spread the message of the awareness of cultural diversity, and to say we are not all homogenous. We are not all white. This is a country made up of people of myriad cultures. We all have to have space to be ourselves. We all have to have space to express our cultures and who we truly are. We all have to have space to express our voice, our different voices, and to express ourselves. And so I think because of this vow and my willingness to follow my calling after Students for an Interracial Dialogue, and then being divinely inspired to open Diversity Intercultural Art Gallery, I eventually found that I too was an artist, as I was saying, because every human being is an artist. And that's another way that I think we get oppressed in society, is that most of us don't get to express ourselves and explore our art. But I found that I wanted to make more art about cultural diversity.
So what is the kind of art that you do?
So my art is so fun for me to make, and I think it's pretty powerful in terms of talking about like it's been described as innocent looking characters or cartoons of innocent looking characters who are talking about challenging subjects like racism, like sexism, like classism, like homophobia, ethnocentrism, all isms I am exploring in my art. And so I sort of have these characters speaking to us. I use a lot of imagery of like thought balloons or voice balloons, where I'm using dialogue in my artwork, because I actually am a dialogue facilitator, and I've actually been to conferences where I've listened to dialogue around race and cultural issues. And I've actually incorporated what I've heard into my paintings, what I've heard directly from people that I've listened to. I've incorporated that into my paintings, the words that I've heard, the issues, the concerns, the ideas, the thoughts, the pain, the challenges, all of that has gone into the artwork. And the strengths and the struggles is really what I like to say, of people of different cultures in dealing with social oppression and being resilient, having strengths around coping and being resilient around being oppressed. And I too have had, as we all have had, experiences around being both oppressed people and oppressors. So I identify a lot because of my own experiences with oppression, being an oppressed person, in different identities that I have, such as being a woman, as a young person, as a Jewish person, as a person raised without enough money. I have certain identities that you may not see just by looking at me. If you're just looking at my skin, you may say, oh, this is a white woman, therefore she is in the oppressed status group or whatever. I mean, oppressor status group. But we all have identities on both sides of the coin, so to speak. And my art also speaks to our hearts. I call it art to touch the heart. It speaks to the best part of us. I use a lot of crowns and one-eyed beings and angels, because that's what has come through me from above, from my higher power, from God. So I hope that my art speaks to the innocence in all of us, the part that is unscathed, unscarred, that we can recover our goodness, that we can recover our sense of our goodness, we can recover our innocence, and not judge ourselves so harshly and not judge others so harshly, because when we don't judge ourselves harshly, it makes it easier not to judge others harshly and not to hurt others or stereotype others, which is a way of hurting people, when we feel good about ourselves. So I want to connect with that spark, that divine spark in each person in my artwork. The crown symbolizes divinity, and the angel wings and the angels, the one-eyed beings, represent the truth, and something that's higher than us, higher than we are, something beyond us that knows the truth of everyone, the goodness of everyone, the perfection of everyone, the love in everyone's heart that we're all born with. We're all born with perfect love and perfect sight, perfect insight, that we're all ready to welcome others and to be welcomed ourselves into this beautiful world. And then what happens is oppression happens. We get treated with prejudice. We get treated with stereotyping. People don't see us clearly. And there's a lot of pain involved when we're not seen as we are and as we want to be seen, as we should be seen. So I hope that my artwork, the artwork that I make, helps people see everyone in a positive light as we truly are, empowered and with God's grace.
And I understand you write music as well?
I do write music as well. The music is also, I believe, channeled from above, channeled from heaven. It is to unify all of us, to bring us closer, to raise awareness of our oneness. From separateness, we should know unity. So it's melodies that are, again, divinely inspired, and with words that hopefully express my own experiences, how I'm interpreting experiences, how I'm empathizing with the experiences of people of color and people who are oppressed, LGBTQIA people, poor people, immigrants, Latinx people, young people, old people, I should say elders or seniors, and young adults and, on intergenerational and people with different abilities, people with mental illness, different physical abilities or disabilities. And through the music, I'm also helping all of us see with clarity the diversity among us and to embrace that fully.
You incorporate into your therapy artwork with your clients. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Incorporating art into my therapy with clients, yes. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist, and I love to invite my clients to make art in our sessions. Art about the trauma that they've experienced, to resolve the trauma, to express what happened. And I believe that social oppression is a kind of trauma, kind of on a prolonged basis, and it's kind of complex. And it involves grief, it involves loss, and deep disappointment. The name that I use on my art is Saint Anger, like Stanger. You just put a dot after the T and it becomes Saint Anger, or Saint Angel, because I've changed the R at the end to an L, and it's just changing one letter. You go from rage, R rage, to L love, and you go from Saint Anger to Saint Angel. And I say that Saint Anger or Saint Angel is the one who takes anger, pain, frustration, and disappointment, which are the byproducts of social oppression, and channels it into something beautiful, constructive, and positive. So I invite my clients to go into this transformative power and this transformative space for healing when they make art with me, and I might offer a suggestion of what to make or not. And then I also lead groups, an arts and spirituality group, where I do more than just drawing or painting. We can actually use the expressive arts therapies, like movement and dance and singing, vocal exercises, and the drawing and painting and writing, journaling, and all of that, yogic kind of meditative breathing and meditation and chanting and affirmation crafting, and singing those affirmations. These are all exercises that I have developed and I've worked with clients that yield very positive results that help self-esteem and help lift one's self-image and make people happy. When we're expressing ourselves artistically and creatively, we're connecting with our source, the source inside of us, and it's very powerful, and we feel happy. We just feel naturally happy.
Can you say something about how your art has progressed over time?
Well, yes. What I wanted to say is, and we were also going to talk about the Drawing World Without Prejudice workshop and workbook. There's something I'm developing called Drawing a World Without Prejudice, and it has a sort of a dual meaning. So to draw, to actually like draw out, like to envision, to visualize by drawing, and to draw out the world that we want. Through drawing, we're actually drawing to us what we want. So drawing a world without prejudice. Drawing a world without prejudice is what we want. So, however, in order to get there, we might have to explore through drawing, which we can. It's a method that I've originated, that I've devised, to help us go and look at that messy stuff, look at that poison that's gotten into us, that is of stereotypes, and where the injustice has gotten rooted into us, like through thinking that we have inferiority and superiority relationship to each other. That is part of the messiness, it's part of the poison that we never wanted, that we never asked for. Our lives would be better without it. Our lives would be better if we never had to deal with this stuff. And it's not our fault that we have this poisonous stuff, that we have to, this venom of oppression that we have to get out of our systems. So how can we do that? We can do that through art and through the Drawing a World Without Prejudice exercises, the workbook and the workshop that I've developed, and I'm working to continue to develop to aid us in this process of healing ourselves around oppression.
What is the healing power of art?
What is the healing power of art? It's kind of like what I was just talking about. What is the healing power of art? It's when we reach inside our souls and we pull out what's in there through art, through making art, through singing, vocalizing. We find our voice again through connecting with our spirit, connecting with the source of ourselves. We're connecting with our wholeness and our holiness, and we're reclaiming our power and finding the truth of who we are. And that is very powerful when we can walk through the world exactly as we are, exactly as who we're meant to be, and we're not judging ourselves, and we're feeling good about ourselves. When I'm feeling good about myself, I don't have to put anyone down. When you're feeling good about yourself, you don't have to put anyone down. All we want to do is lift ourselves up and lift up one another, and that is a life. That is how life should really actually be, where we're all here on earth supporting one another to be our best selves, to be our greatest ideas of ourselves and who we can be, and to self-actualize and to have no limits around living our truest potential, of our greatness. And we can access that potential through art. That's the power of art.
Is there anything else you'd like to add before we stop now?
Oh, yeah. Let me think. So, in closing, I just want to say that diversity is beautiful. Cultural diversity is beautiful, and I'm developing through Diversity Arts and Unity Theater, which is a play based on my art and music for healing oppression, healing racism, and bringing us all together back in unity as one human family. I'm also developing Drawing a World Without Prejudice, as I mentioned, the workshop and workbook, and also diversity therapy is a kind of therapy that I'm working to develop, incorporating cognitive behavioral therapy exercises, where we can actually have an individualized treatment plan and work in small groups with members of our own cultural groups to eliminate the stereotypes and the oppression and the prejudice and all the effects and impact of all of that that all of that has had on us, and we can replace any sort of negative thoughts of being less than or more than other people. We can replace all of that junk, the poison that we internalized that was not our fault, that we never wanted to internalize. We never wanted to have to deal with all of that. So we can actually replace it. We can learn. We can change our brains. We can rewire our brains. Our brains have plasticity. And through understanding this, these techniques and the other ones that I've mentioned, the art, the creative expressive arts, and the cognitive behavioral therapy exercises, as well as more psychodynamic sorts of understandings, will help us individually and in groups to work on ourselves. So diversity therapy. And I will hopefully eventually soon open the Intercultural Healing Institute, ICHI. Intercultural Healing Institute. Ichi is a word that in Japanese means one or oneness. So, Ichi is about reclaiming, recovering our oneness, our wholeness as one human family. And the way that we do that is by working on whatever's getting in the way of that. Whatever's getting in the way of us being totally connected, totally bonded, totally in love with one another, totally intimate with one another in an agape sense, just a pure holy love, brotherly, sisterly love. And here we are in Philadelphia. We're in Philadelphia, right? And this is the city of brotherly and sisterly love, Philadelphia. So, in closing, that's where we're based in Philadelphia, and New York. And however, we want to be national and have a national presence, so we're moving in this direction. And if you'd like more information, please find us on the web at www.diversityarts.org. Thank you for your interviewing.
Thank you for your answering.
Thank you for interviewing me. Elana Stanger, Eden Rosenthal. Signing off. Thank you. Thanks for watching.